Well, hello there, Board Game Maniacs, and thanks for joining me for another episode of Painting with a Maniac. Now what we're doing is, because we're continuing on with the Marvel Crisis Protocol theme month, I figured, why not paint the measuring tools that you see in front of you? Now these are from a set I already painted, and I have blank ones here because I bought the extra set because when I'm playing with Brady or another guest and they don't have the tools or anything, it gets a little bit problematic, I guess is the way to say it, when you are going to find a measuring tool and the other person put it somewhere and I can't remember where they put it. Brady I'm talking about. In either case, so I bought an extra set and we're going to, in this tutorial, we're just going to do some simple painting on these. It's going to be a combination of with a brush as well as an airbrush too as well. So we're going to be going to the airbrush booth and we're going to be coming back here to fix things up and so on. But just so that everybody is aware of this, that you can see like the subtle gradation, I have very limited amount of different types of airbrush paint in the colors. So we're just going to work with what we have to make some kind of subtle gradation going on, which is, it's very simple. And again, this painting tutorial is more geared to the airbrush. Not that you couldn't use a brush and just paint it with the other regular paint by doing wet blending to gradually, but for this one, it's going to be primarily focused on, to get the gradation, we're going to focus on the airbrushing. So be aware of that. And so I'm just going to show you, this here is unpainted. You can see right there. And that is the painted one. So you can see a little bit of comparison right there. Pretty simple. And let's grab the 2, 1, 2 as well. 1, 2, 2, 1, 1, 2, 2, 1. So I'll just lay that right there. And that's what we're going to do. So let's head over to the airbrush booth so that we can base them out in black or white, don't really matter. And then we'll let that dry, and then we're going to start with the gradation of the different colors. So let's go to the airbrush booth now. We're at my dirty, well-used spray booth. You can see the buildup of paint here. Now, just to let you know that I just got a piece of wood, you can see here, and blue tack. You can see some blue tack right there. And I stuck them into it just so that I can move this around any way I want. And they're not going to fall off, because if you're in the middle of painting and they fall off, they could, fall on the floor or what have you and get some hair on it or dirt or whatever. So you just want to be careful of that. And the first step we're going to do here is base it out. And you can base it in whatever color you want. But because I'm doing a gradient effect where it goes from darkest to lightest, I'm going to base them out into the lightest color that I have, and it's going to be white. You can see here it's a surface primer. Let's see if I can put it here, you can see better with the lighting. There we go. So this is surface primer. It is Vallejo. It is just white, and that's what we're doing. Is I just put it in my airbrush, and we're just going to base them all out. So again, it's not difficult to base. You don't want to get close like this. You want to kind of keep it at a distance and just work your way up. And again, the reason why I'm doing white is so that where I'm doing this and it's going to be bright, the brightest part, because I'm doing the gradation onto it, then I want it to, the white's going to kind of mix in with the final color if it is not going to be the final and brightest color of it all. So that's why I'm basing them out in white here. You can do it in black. Totally up to you. Pretty simple. I don't have my airbrush booth fan going because it is kind of loud. And if I do an airbrush the fan into it, you're not going to be able to hear me talk at all. I'm just shaking up some more of the paint. I got to put a little bit more in. That's actually a good point, is when you are painting with your airbrush and you're putting makeup, you're putting the paint into it, you don't want to fill almost up to the top. And the reason why is because you want to be able to let the air flow a little bit better. So you just put a little bit in at a time. When I say a little bit, like a quarter is good or what have you. And plus, it kind of deters you from wasting paint, because that paint primer is not cheap. And it's just this way, when you're doing it, it's, you're airbrushing it on. And if you run out, you can just simply add more instead of putting too much into it. So yeah, I'm just going to keep doing this. And again, I'm keeping my distance. Just like so. Now you can do, sometimes you need 2 coats onto it, sometimes you don't. But you don't want to rush this job so that it gets like leaks and runs into it, because it's going to wreak havoc onto your airbrush. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave this dry, and I'm going to get around the edging and everything else too as well. And when this is all done, we'll be back to start doing the gradient work onto it. All the paint is dry now, so you can see here, just lift this up a little bit so you can see a little better. The white is primed. And it's on a stand. Now this is just with some blue tack too as well. It's not going to come off. And this is just the top of a spray paint can. So the lid, and I just stuck it onto it just to make it a little easier so I don't have to hold it. So what we're going to do for this one, we're painting a gradient, is we're going to use a series of different colors, and we're going to gradually build up. But I'm only going to show how you paint one of them, or airbrush one, because it's going to be the same process for everyone. And I'm probably just going to stick with the same paint scheme for this one, not like the other ones where everyone was different. We'll see how it turns out, but I'm thinking I'm probably just going to stick with it, and we'll just call it like that. The paint that we're using, however, it's not Citadel paint, it's not Minotaur paint, it's not Vallejo paint, not Badger, but they're all kind of like the same. But we are going to be actually switching to a paint that's called Wicked Colors. So hopefully you can see that right there. If you do a search online for Wicked Colors, W-I-C-K-E-D colors, it's by Createx. You can get these. Now I use these, I mix them with latex, and I paint them with if I'm painting my masks with them, or if I don't mix them with latex, I just do it like it is and paint props and what have you. It's just an acrylic paint, that's all it is. Really rich pigment color you'll see as we start laying it down. And the first color we're using for this actually is Wicked Yellow. It's yellow, it's wicked. Yeah, it's wicked, dude. So that's the first color we're going to be using. Now, this is straight at the pot. I didn't put any reducers or flow aid or anything into it. But if you want to use some kind of reducer or flow aid, if you find it kind of thick, you can actually get the Wicked Colors reducer you can see right here. They actually have that in the line too as well. And you can just put a drop or two into your airbrush, mix it up, and away you go. But I didn't add that to it for the yellow. We're just going to keep it like that. So I'm just going to give it a shot to see if it's spraying good. And my PSI is probably about 30, between 30 and 35, rough like that. So now I'm going from light colors to dark colors. So I'm going to work my way down this way with the yellow, and then we're going to change to another color and go on, so on and so on. So white is the brightest color that's going to be on here. So I'm just holding it. This is a dual action airbrush before I do anything else. I'm kind of rambling here. Dual actions mean you push down, no paint comes out. You have to pull back, and the amount you pull back, the diaphragm, the needle pulls back, and you get more paint coming out. So just be aware of that. But right now, we're going to keep the white right here, and I hope everybody can see that okay. And we're just going to slowly, gradually pull back on the paint as we go down, just to get a little bit more concentration. So until it gets like super dark. And then again, I'm just slightly going up as well. So you're seeing it's starting to create this subtle gradation, and that's what we want, because I am going to be using a combination of 4 colors. So it's going to be 4 gradation going down here. So this is the first color. So again, you can go from very little paint by holding it down and pulling back slightly at the top, and then pulling back further and further as you go to the point where it's going to be the darkest. So again, just so I can show you, not pulling back, starting to pull back slowly so you can get a little bit of paint, and then I'm pulling back more the further I go down until the concentration of it is there. So there, you can't see any white, but as you go up higher, it is bleeding, and the white is starting to show through more and more until you get close to the tip where it's very little yellow and more concentrated white. So that is how the gradation works. We're going to stop the video here, I'm going to switch colors, and then after I switch colors, we'll be back to the next color. Now, before I switch colors, just a quick little thing about switching colors. You don't have to take the airbrush apart and clean it between colors. What I usually do is I will dump out the excess of the paint, and then I will just take some water, spray it into it, backflow by holding my finger onto the nozzle right here, and then just push down and pull back because it is dual action. Create a lot of bubbles. I'll dump it out. I'll do it like 5 or 6 times. And then after that, I'll take a Q-tip, swish around the bowl, spray some water through it, and then turn the PSI all the way up to the max that I can, and spray out the water 3 or 4 times. You can continue that like 2 or 3 times, as in like backflow, and then spray just to make sure everything's all nice and clean. And then I'll add another color. That way, you don't have to give it a thorough clean between each color with this type of paint, which is really good. And because I'm going to probably not clean it so thoroughly, because the next color I want it to kind of blend a little bit just so it mixes. So just so we're aware of that. So anyhow, I'm going to switch colors and I'll be back with the next one. Now that I got my airbrush switched colors, we are going to go on to its orange. It is the same paint line. We're going to be using all the same paint line. It is Fluorescent Orange by Wicked Colors. So it is going to be bright, but I want it to really pop out a bit, so that's why we're using fluorescent orange. And you're thinking like yellow to orange, how are you going to do this? Well, you just have to watch and see, I guess. So we got this here. You know, again, when you switch colors and before you put it onto your piece that you're painting, it's always good just to check the airflow, make sure everything is working good onto it. And I didn't change the pressure, it's still about 30 PSI. So just be aware of that. So when I'm airbrushing the orange, I'm going to start with the yellow. Actually, I'm going to start a little lower, probably about 1/4, and I'm going to go dark, and it's going to go lighter as it goes into the yellow and blend into it. So by the time I get to the yellow, there's going to be a little bit of orange, and then it's going to pretty much disappear as we go up. So because I got 4 colors, I'm breaking this up into like a four sections. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And the bottom right here is going to be the darkest. So 1, 2. So right here. So let's start with the orange here. And all I'm doing is I'm laying in the color first, because I wanted to keep it light. And now darker pass again. Goes lighter as it goes up. So again, this is just gradual. You just got to build it up as you go along. And the whole time you are maintaining the distance. Again, you don't want to get right in there because it's going to create splashing, runs, and everything else is going to be very unpleasant. So you just want to be able to control the flow. So down here again, on camera, yep. So this is going to be like the darkest part of it. So again, lighter as we go up. The white is showing through onto it, going up, and then the yellow is showing through to the orange. There, so you can see the gradation that's starting to go on. And once this is all done, we're going to go back and we're just going to tie in the colors of them all together with the darkest one and fading it all the way up. So you can see the orange, it kind of stops here, and then it's very, very light, and it bleeds into the yellow, which we want. So adding a little bit more orange and going a little bit higher. Not by much, though. And the outside, we're going to be painting out with a different color. We're just kind of building it up for the inside, like the blast or what have you, I guess. Anyhow, so that is it for the orange. I'm going to clean the airbrush again, change colors, and I'll be back. Now that the orange is done, or fluorescent orange, we're going to go on to the next color, and we are going to be using magenta. This is fluorescent raspberry, I mean, not magenta. So fluorescent raspberry is the next color we're going to be doing. And again, it's another strange color, but I kind of picked this because I want the measuring tools and everything just to stand out a lot. And this here is one way of making it stand out. So again, Wicked Colors, fluorescent raspberry. You don't have to use these same colors. You can pick whatever ones you want. Don't make a difference. This is just what I had on hand, and I thought it would make an interesting color scheme. So again, same thing is we are going to spray it darker down here, and it goes up lighter. All right, so start here. Hopefully I'm on camera. So again, just very light. And I'm carrying it over onto the orange a little bit. Now I'm going darker. Still keeping the light onto it. And as you can probably tell by now, when I'm doing each color, I'm kind of carrying it over and gently blending it up with all of it. And I'm not worrying about looking at the edges, like I said. It's just the center is what I am concentrating on. And because this here is more of a darker color, I'm going, like I said, all the way up with this one. So you can see kind of the gradation that this is happening. I like it. I like it a lot. So what I'm going to do now is just stop, dump out that color, and put in the last color, which is darkest. And that's another thing I want to point out is when I'm painting with an airbrush, whether it's doing a mask or what have you, a good idea to do is, for me anyhow, is I like starting with the lightest color and working my way to the darkest. And the reason for that being is it's easier to cover over a light color with the dark color than a light color over a dark. Yeah, I think I said that right. It's easier to cover over a light color with a dark color, but it's harder to cover over a dark color with a light color. That's what I meant to say. Anyhow, yeah, so that's there. I'll be back after I clean it out and we'll put on the final color. The last color we're doing on this until we go back into out of the painting booth and going to my painting desk is blue. This blue is actually just wicked blue. It's a dark pigmented blue. So therefore, because it's a dark pigmented, the pigments are a little larger. And sometimes when you got darker colors, you may have to add a little bit thinner or reducer to it just to help flow a little bit better. Just be aware of that. But anyhow, we're going to do the blue now, and it's the same process. So now when we're doing the blue, we're going to darkest here, it's going to go light, and we're going to carry on the blue now up onto the entire thing. But as it goes up higher, the lighter it gets. So here goes. We'll start from the bottom. Hit it. And it's getting lighter. Lighter, lighter. Pretty easy. I'm just angling it to get on the edge here a little bit. And that's about it for the gradation. You can see there, dark, bluish, purple, 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 orangish, orange, yellow to yellow, white to white. And that's for the gradation. So now we're going to go back to our paint desk and continue this off. But before we do that, I'm just, I got to clean my airbrush. Now, you don't have to constantly clean it, but you don't want to leave any paint sitting in this, because if you do, what happens is it'll end up clogging and into the chamber here, and it'll cause a lot of problems, and your airbrush will be almost impossible to clean. You'll spend hours and hours on it and curse it. So I'm going to clean it, and then we'll be back to the paintbrush. The paint desk, not paintbrush, the paint desk. We're back at the painting desk right now, and we are going to finish painting this off. It's going to be very simple, the last little step that we're doing. But you can see here, because the lighting is better than where it was at the airbrush booth, so you can see where the gradation is going up, which is really good. You can see some bands going on slightly, but you know, it's not a big deal, especially after we throw the colors onto it, like the outer color here. This band thing is going to fade drastically. And so we're going to start that, but before we do that, one of my other painting tutorials that I did, or Painting with the Maniac episodes, one of the subscribers have asked, like, what kind of palette, what palette are you using? You'd like to see. So I'm just going to show the wet palette here. So you can see here, this is a wet palette. It's just a plastic container. It's kind of, let me move this out the way. Here we go. That's just one of my stands I got for holding extra miniatures. But it's just a container, an air sealed container. And it has 2 layers of paper towel that is wet underneath. And then it has the parchment paper on top. Put some paint into it, like 3 parts paint to maybe 1 part water, and mix it up. This is from other painting projects that I happen to go to as well. And when you're done of the day and you want your paint to last, you just close it over and lock it down. And that is it. It's pretty simple. So that is the painting palette. I don't want to turn it upside down to show you the rest because it just, well, the paint will run, right? And the thing is I got this here, so when I lay it down on the desk, it has a brace, so it's not flopping over. That's just me, though. That's the way I do it. But anyhow, that is the painting palette. Now we're going to continue painting this. And the only color we're using on this is going to be Abaddon Black by Citadel. You can use any color if you want, but I'm choosing to do black. And remember, it's in my painting palette, and the consistency of this is probably like 3:1. So I'm just going to paint the 5 first. So I'm not going on it with the angle with the tip of the brush. I'm actually just going to brush it along. This way it avoids getting more mess onto the other parts that I don't want. So again, just gently, very carefully, cautiously. And also too as well, you may have to go over it with a second layer afterwards. Just be aware of that. So again, I'm just using the side of my brush. I'm not using the tip. And we are painting. Painting, painting, painting. Like I said, it's not difficult at all for doing this. Pretty simple. So again, just paint, paint, paint. And I'm also going to be painting the sides all black as well. La 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 la. And that's, you know, it's not too difficult. So remember, it's just the side. So when you're painting it, just so you can see a little different angle, it's sideways. Using the side of the brush and not the tip. So I'm going to keep continuing on with this, and I'm also going to paint the other ones too as well. And when this is all done, we'll be back to show you the final look. Well, there you have it, Board Game Maniacs. The painting is done with the gradation. And as I said before, the bands are not as visible after you paint the black onto it. Now, you don't have to follow these specific colors. You can do whatever you want, obviously. And it's a lot of fun painting them. It's very simple. It's a nice little painting break from painting miniatures. And as you can see, there's so many different options in the way you can paint it. Like this number 4. Excuse me, hiccups again. Here's another one I did with a different color scheme. So there's many, 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 many things that you can do to enhance the look of your game, plus to give it more of an individuality so that you don't get confused if you're playing with somebody else, because you paint them your way and there's no question about it whatsoever of what measuring tools are yours, because nobody's going to paint them the same as you unless everybody follows the same tutorial, and then definitely it is going to be different. I mean, it is going to be the same, but who knows? Just experiment, play around with the colors, the gradation, the airbrush, or even just a brush, and just go nuts. The only step left to do, which I am not going to do on camera because it's very simple, and it's just taking your whatever you use to seal your paint jobs and spraying them or painting them over just to seal them so that your paint will last longer. And that's pretty much it. So I hope you had fun watching this Painting with the Maniac episode. Go paint some of your own if you haven't. And if you already painted some of your measuring tools, please let me know. Send me an email at BoardGameManiacs@gmail.com. Link is in the description. And send me some pictures of ones that you painted. I'd be interested to see the style that you painted. Because I see many ways that these have been painted, not just with gradation, but above and beyond. Like, it's incredible. And that's it. So stay tuned for the next episode of Painting with the Maniac and some more Marvel Crisis Protocol battle reports too as well, because I'm sure there's going to be a couple on the channel for this month for the theme. And until next time, Board Game Maniacs, and that is, be a maniac. I'll see you next time. Bye. Hope you enjoyed that video. If you want to keep up to date with Board Game Maniacs, click on the like and subscribe button to be notified when more videos come available. If you want to become an official sponsor of Board Game Maniacs, go to patreon.com/BoardGameManiacs. Or you can go to streamlabs.com/BoardGameManiacs1. That's right, and you can donate to help keep the lights on, keep food in our bellies, and play more games. We'll purchase more games, more equipment to make Board Game Maniacs evolve and get bigger and larger. Because of you, the viewers, I thank you from the bottom of my toes to the top of my head for all of your support. And until next time, Board Game Maniacs, be a maniac.